one of the places okay, I guess I kind of got ahead of myself here. I'm also a teacher and an author. I've written a book called The Rainbow Juice Cleanse, and this book was actually, I've been on Dr. Oz twice with my book, and I'll get into that a little bit more detail, but I love educating. So I don't practice anymore, but I've taken really the nutrition and the healing side of my profession and really run with it. I've been on Fox News, on Dr. Oz, and I just love explaining things to people who may not be in the health field and they may not know this information, but I love giving people the power back. So for years I taught at Hippocrates Health Institute, which is a healing center in West Palm Beach, very similar to here in Shelby, Hallelujah Acres. Mm-hmm. Similar to that philosophy of getting back to real food, God's food, clean foods, getting your body more alkaline, and we'll touch on that. But this one happens to be down in West Palm Beach, Florida. So when it comes to the pH, this is like my pH party talk here, but if you think of something that you're familiar with in terms of the pH is the pool, right? Mm-hmm. So when we're getting ready for summer, or if you have a pool or a community pool, if it's not the proper pH, what happens? What happens if it's not the proper pH? This happens, right? Mm-hmm. Algae grows. Mm-hmm. And so what do we do when we have the algae? They put lime or some sort of chemical in there. Is it lime? Chlorine. Chlorine. Lime is with the dirt, with the soil. So they put chlorine in there to counteract it, to get it more alkaline, right? So that things don't grow in it. And if you're a gardener, you would understand that with plants, because the pH for the soil of plants, if it's too acid or if it's too alkaline, this is what can happen to your plants, along with if you don't water your plants, that can happen. So with our bodies, we have to understand that philosophy too, because the pH of your body is very, very important. This is something that I think should be taught like when you're young, because we learn in high school chemistry, you learn about the pH scale, but we learn it in terms of chemicals. We don't learn it in terms of our body. We might learn it in terms of pool, and if we get into gardening, you might learn it in terms of soil, but we never learn it in terms of our body. So weight loss, don't step on it. It makes you cry. If you're not at the proper pH, you're not going to lose weight. Did you know that? Mm. When you get your body alkaline, not acidic, weight just starts to fall off. Health challenges. Honey, do you want the one that cures headache and causes stroke, or eases back pain but causes heart attack, right? I mean, that's kind of the state of where we are in terms of health challenges. And you're not going to resolve most of today's health challenges if you're acidic. But did you know cancer cannot thrive in an acidic body? In an alkaline body. I mean, cancer cannot thrive in an alkaline body. So most people with cancer, all people with cancer, if you were to test their pH, they would be acidic. So if you have difficulty losing weight or you're facing a health challenge, you're most likely toxic and acidic. So it's time to get alkaline. And you're like, what does that mean? We're going to talk about that. Your body will balance and release toxins when it's alkaline. So the pH scale, we're not going to make this complicated, but I want to bring back high school chemistry for you, in case you missed that particular class. It's called the potential of hydrogen. That's what it stands for. It's a measure on a scale from 0 to 14 of the acidity or alkalinity of a solution. 7 would be neutral on that scale. The low numbers are acidic and the high numbers are alkaline. So let's draw up that scale. This is the pH scale. So here we have 1 to 14, neutral is right here, and your body likes to be just over that neutral line at about 7.36 to 7.45. The acid side, this is where disease loves to live. This is where you're toxic. This is where inflammation, systemic inflammation takes place, and all of today's diseases are inflammatory in nature. This is where fat storage takes place, aging, no energy, and ultimately, if you live here decade after decade, this is where death takes place. This is where disease, it's the perfect pool for disease, an acidic body. On the other side, the alkaline side, now of course you don't want to get too alkaline, but right here, just over that 7 mark, this is where disease reversal takes place. So whether it's Hippocrates Health Institute, Hallelujah Acres, or any of these healing centers where people are balancing their bodies again and they're starting to resolve health challenges, and that's what happens when you give your body the right tools. This is where disease reversal takes place. So it kind of doesn't matter where you are right now. If you understand this concept and just start moving in this direction, and I'll tell you how to do that. But disease reversal, great health. Fat funeral mode, because when your body gets alkaline, that's when things start happening, the weight starts coming off, your body starts balancing. Youthing, turning back the hands of time. Your skin. I know for women, but I'm sure for men too, but one of the biggest things, aside from more energy when you start getting your body more alkaline, is your skin. people will say, what have you done to your, have you got your facial, Botox, like what are you doing? Something looks different here. And of course, I'm not a big fan of Botox, so, but something's different, you know? And what happens is your skin cells, think about it, your skin cells turn over constantly. We're constantly growing new skin cells, right? That's probably the cells that turn over the quickest. But if they're drawing from garbage nutrients, they're not going to be glowing, they're not going to be healthy, they're going to look drab and unhealthy. And so when you start eating more alkaline God's foods, real foods, that's when besides energy, the skin is the next thing. People are like, what are you doing? Your skin is glowing, you look different. And then the weight starts falling off, and then the body starts balancing, and then the health challenges start resolving. It really is that simple. So, on the pH scale, the acid side are the obvious foods, the standard American diet. We have soda, which is about a 2 on the pH scale. It's really, really acidic. Remember, you want to be up in the 7 mark. And these numbers are exponential. So it's 10 to the negative 7, 10 to the negative 6, 10 to the... These are huge jumps. It's just not 4, 5, and 6, if you kind of remember that from school. Coffee is about a 4. So the first thing you do in the morning, while you're sleeping, your body's going through all this metabolic processing. It's getting things ready for elimination. You're probably the most acidic.
Well, I gotta go.
You're probably the most acidic first thing in the morning. And so you want to get your body alkaline. You want to get it back over here. But if you grab a coffee first thing in the morning, I know that's very common, but I'm just telling you the truth. Coffee is very, very acidic. Not only is coffee acidic, but coffee, if it's not organic, is one of the most heavily sprayed with pesticides crops out there. So you're getting an acidic drink, and you're getting pesticides and herbicides and fungicides and who knows what else they're spraying on coffee these days. And soda, of course, is chemicals, and it's very acidic. So those two things are very acidic. Then we have, the standard American diet foods, and there's a piece of tomato and a little piece of lettuce there, which would be alkaline, except for that it's probably been sprayed with chemicals. It's not organic, and so it still sits on the acidic side. And those two little things are not enough if this is your diet to move you in the alkaline space. Okay, you might think you're doing good with the slice of tomato and the piece of lettuce, but the way I like to look at it is think of your food. Think of it as like a checkbook, and at the end of the day, what's the balance? Because you're going to end up eating some foods that are acidic, but at the end of the day, is the balance of your day in terms of your food, is it alkaline or is it acidic? Now, if it's acidic, if you do that every day, year after year, decade after decade, that is when disease starts to basically grow, so to speak, because you're the perfect pool for disease. And I know a lot of people like to blame genetics, and you can only do that to a certain extent. So here's the deal with genetics. We're all born with bad genes. I mean, I have heart disease, cancer. My mom actually was just diagnosed with breast cancer. My father died from lung cancer. So I've got that going on in my genetic makeup. And I actually just did this whole talk to my mom. That's why I went to Virginia is to deal with her and get her moving in this direction, because she's a total soda freak and she eats a lot of those foods. And so I think she gets it now, because we tested her pH and it was actually in the 5. Very, very low, extremely acidic. So she keeps texting me, telling me she's making juices for my book, and she's taking her vitamins and all of that. So I think she's starting to understand. So the genetics, if you think of, we all have bad genes, and think of them as light switches when you're born, and they're all in the off position. They haven't been what's called expressed yet. They haven't been turned on yet. And they don't have to be turned on. But what happens is, this is one of the things that turns them on. When you create a pool that disease likes, that genetic switch will turn on. And it may take 40, 50 years, it might take quite a few decades to happen, but if the balance of your day in terms of your food is acidic, and you do that decade after decade, that's when those genetic light switches start turning on. Now, if they've turned on, you can turn them off. You can absolutely turn them off, or you can do what I've done and never have them turn on. Now, hopefully that will still be the case, because I'm living in that world. And so if you understand that philosophy of how you absolutely have the power in your hands to control your genes and your health future, no matter what may have run in your family, oftentimes it's the family's lifestyle is the same generation after generation. And so that's usually what happens, because things just get passed on. That's what happens. And so I'd like to think that I've broken that kind of cord, so to speak. I've cut that cord so that those types of things are not going to continue. So this is basically man's foods are acidic, or when man gets his hands on foods, because even like orange juice, when you buy orange juice from the store that's been pasteurized, that's a high heat process that kills off all the nutrients. And so you're much better off. I'm not a big fan of juicing fruit to begin with, and that's what I talk about in my book, Juice Your Veggies.